That day, the Hanfeng County Police received a report from an old residential compound. When they entered the apartment, they noticed the place was in disarray. There were traces of blood on the floor, but the wardrobe stood closed and tidy. Growing suspicious, they moved closer and opened it only to find a human leg sticking out. Why was there such a horrifying scene? A human leg hidden inside a wardrobe? What kind of motive could drive someone to commit such a heartless act? Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today join me as we uncover the chilling details of this true crime case. As always, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the upcoming real-life mysteries. Thank you so much for your support. On the afternoon of October 26, 2010, the Hanfeng County Police in Hubei Province received a call from Liang Zijun, a resident of Apartment 1, 3rd floor, Building 2, in an old housing complex on Yuanhe Street. Liang Zijun reported that he had gone to see a doctor the previous day, and upon returning home, he noticed signs of a break-in. His wife, Zhang Shuni, was missing with no trace of her and completely out of contact. After receiving the report, the police rushed to the scene. As soon as they entered, they spotted a few drops of blood scattered across the floor. This immediately raised alarm. It might not be just a simple burglary. Inside the apartment, officers saw that the living room curtains were tightly drawn. The sofa was neat, the floor showed no signs of a struggle, and the television was still playing an entertainment program. Moving into the bedroom, however, the scene was entirely different. Clothes were scattered all over the floor, and drawers from the nightstand and dressing table had been pulled open, clearly rifled through. After checking the valuable items, the police discovered that aside from the missing cell phone and a gold ring belonging to the woman of the house, everything else, including the computer camera and television, was still in place. Yet one detail stood out. Every drawer and cabinet in the room had been rummaged through, except for the wardrobe, which remained tightly shut. The officers moved toward the wardrobe and pulled the door open. Inside, clothes were piled up in a messy heap. One sharp-eyed officer noticed what looked like a leg in denim jeans sticking out from beneath the clothes. At first, he assumed it was just a mannequin, but on closer inspection, the skin looked far too real. The police quickly cleared the pile, and to their shock, they uncovered the body of a young woman lying motionless. Her eyes were closed, her face pale, and it was clear that she had been gone for some time. Later, through identification by Liang Zijun, the victim was confirmed to be his wife, Zhang Shuni, 29 years old, the very woman he had lost contact with. As soon as the situation became clear, the local homicide unit quickly arrived at the scene. The autopsy results revealed that Zhang Shuni had a wound on the back of her head, likely caused by a blunt object. There were also clear marks around her neck. The cause of death was determined to be suffocation. The estimated time of death was between 9 Xiaozhi and 10 Sebzherum p.m. on October 25th. At this point, investigators speculated that the killer might have struck Zhang Shuni from behind to knock her unconscious, then strangled her until she passed away. Initially, they suspected a burglary gone wrong with the attacker silencing her after being caught in the act. However, the crime scene told a more puzzling story. The room did appear ransacked, much like in a burglary. Yet valuable possessions such as the laptop, digital camera, and other items were all untouched. Only Zhang Shuni's gold ring and cell phone were missing. The fact that the intruder left behind other valuables, including gold and silver items, was truly strange. This raised suspicion that the entire burglary scene might have been staged by the killer to cover up his true intentions. What's more, burglaries rarely happen before 1100 p.m., since most homeowners and neighbors are still awake at that time. Although the police collected numerous fingerprints at the scene, every single one of them belonged to Liang Zijun and his wife. This meant that the killer must have been wearing gloves during the crime. The doors and windows showed no signs of being forced open. The drain pipe outside had no marks of climbing the walls, showed no scrapes, and the windowsills were spotless. Even the spiderwebs in the corners remained untouched. Clearly, the intruder hadn't used any special trick to break in. Most likely they walked straight into the house through the front door. After reviewing the security cameras of the apartment complex, police discovered that there was a blind spot about 3 feet wide. If someone stayed close to the wall, the cameras wouldn't capture them. This suggested that the intruder had likely used this path to avoid being seen. Knowing the blind spot of the security cameras at the building entrance revealed that the culprit was very familiar with the victim's residence. Through further inquiries, police learned that during the time of the crime, no neighbors reported hearing any noise or signs of struggle. This indicated that the suspect was likely someone Zhang Shuni knew, perhaps even someone close to her. From this, investigators formed an early conclusion the crime was most likely committed by an acquaintance. With years of investigative experience, police knew that ordinary burglars never linger at the scene to clean up after themselves. Instead, they flee quickly. This led them to believe the act was deliberate, organized, and carefully planned in advance. The staged burglary scene was nothing more than a distraction meant to mislead the investigation. Police ruled out the possibility that Zhang Shuni was killed in a random burglary and shifted their focus toward the theory of revenge. They immediately questioned her family. However, her mother strongly disagreed with this idea, insisting it was impossible. Zhang Shuni was well known in Enshi, regarded as a popular local singer, and she had always worked at her mother's company. Because of this, Zhang Shuni didn't interact with many people and certainly hadn't formed any deep grudges. So then who could have wanted to harm a woman with no real means of defending herself? At this moment, Zhang Shuni's mother unexpectedly provided the police with a new lead. After Zhang Shuni's death, an insurance company came forward revealing that Liang Zijun had purchased a life insurance policy for her worth 320,000 yuan, about 47,000 USD. This prompted investigators to turn their attention toward Liang Zijun. Investigators soon uncovered that Liang Zijun had purchased multiple high-value life insurance policies for his wife. On July 15, 2009, he bought a policy from New China Life Insurance worth 240,000 yuan, about 35,000 USD. On December 15, 2009, he purchased another from Ping An Insurance worth 500,000 yuan, about 73,000 USD, followed by a third policy worth 300,000 yuan, about 44,000 USD. In total, he had insured Zhang Shuni for 1.06 million yuan, roughly 155,000 USD. The insurance contracts clearly stated that in the event of an accident involving Zhang Shuni, Liang Zijun would be the sole beneficiary. Yet upon close examination, police noticed one crucial detail. The beneficiary section was always filled in with Liang Zijun's name, but the handwriting did not belong to Zhang Shuni. When questioned, Liang Zijun explained that he bought the insurance policies for Zhang Shuni only to help a former classmate meet business quotas. Police tracked down this classmate who confirmed his story. Still, investigators needed to verify Liang Zijun's whereabouts at the time of the crime. Liang Zijun further stated that on the day of the incident he had traveled to Enshi Prefecture for a medical checkup and only returned home several days later. Reviewing traffic and hospital cameras in Enshi police confirmed that on October 25th at around 7:00 p.m., Liang Zijun was indeed at a local hospital. Footage also showed him strolling near the hotel where he stayed. Additionally, a hotel clerk recalled speaking with him at the front desk around 10:00 p.m. that same night. Moreover, Zhang Shuni's mother insisted that her son-in-law and daughter shared a loving, harmonious relationship, rarely quarreling. She said Liang Zijun always cared deeply for her daughter and could never possibly be a killer. Thus, Liang Zijun was eliminated from suspicion, and the case seemed to be heading into a dead end. Just as investigators hit a wall, however, a crucial lead suddenly emerged. After multiple examinations of the crime scene, police discovered a woman's shoe print deliberately left near the corner of the sofa. Forensic analysis confirmed it belonged to the perpetrator. But how could they be so sure the print was size 36, about size 5.5 in US women's shoes, which is typically worn by women, very rarely by men? Could it be that the culprit was a woman? With this suspicion in mind, the police reached out to a forensic footprint expert. After a thorough examination of the shoe print, the expert noticed something unusual. The toe, the ball of the foot, and the heel were pressed clearly into the ground, but the midsection left almost no mark at all. This suggested one possibility, what they call the big foot in small shoes scenario. In other words, the suspect had intentionally worn size 36 shoes to the crime scene in an attempt to throw off the investigation. Based on the footprints, the expert estimated the suspect's profile about 5 feet 7 inches tall, aged between 35 and 40, weighing around 145 to 155 pounds with a slim build. The person likely had strong climbing skills and some knowledge of martial arts. What stood out most was that these traits perfectly matched Dang Mo, the ex-husband of Zhang Shuni. It was known that after his divorce from Zhang Shuni, Dang Mo had tried multiple times to reconcile only to be rejected again and again. At one point, he even caused trouble for her parents. Everything pointed to him as the prime suspect. But once investigators compared the footprints and thoroughly checked his alibi, Dang Mo was officially ruled out. At this point, investigators returned to the crime scene and sprayed a newly developed luminol solution across the floor. Though the surface had been cleaned thoroughly, faint footprints glowed back under the chemical reaction. The analysis revealed the sequence of events. Zhang Shuni was attacked in the living room, then carried into the bedroom. After that, the suspect entered the bathroom to clean up and finally left the apartment, locking the door behind them. Police invited Zhang Shuni's close friends, as well as the ex-wife and acquaintances of Liang Zikun, to walk in comparison with the discovered footprints. Yet after repeated testing, every single one of them was eliminated as a suspect. The case once again seemed to be heading toward a dead end. Just then, investigators uncovered a critical clue inside the bedroom. In the drawer of a bedside table, they found a debt ledger. Strangely, one corner of a page had been torn off, and that missing piece contained about 5 or 6 names. Why would only that corner be torn out? Detectives recalled a local custom during weddings. Besides the gift ledger, there is also a guest list where each attendee signs their name. Luckily, the police managed to find this very guest list inside the victim's home. After comparing the names, a new discovery emerged. Out of the 6 names, missing 5 had already been investigated and eliminated. The only one left was a man named Lu Hushin. Oddly enough, neither Liang Zikun nor Zhang Shuni's parents claimed to know this person at all. Faced with this situation, the police immediately searched for the name Lu Huoshan in the household registry. The results showed that no such person existed locally. At that point, they turned to the National Population Database, searching for similar-sounding names. Sure enough, they discovered a man named Lu Fushan. Investigations revealed that Lu Fushan lived in Quanba Village, Hanfeng County. He was known as a drifter, fond of gambling, with no steady job, spending most of his time working in the fields. Yet thanks to his agility, strength, and martial arts skills, he often performed stone-breaking acts or lion dances at tourist spots. Despite this, both Liang Zikun and the mother of Zhang Shuni insisted they had never known him. Even so, the police decided to track him down. When officers arrived at Lu Fushan's home, he wasn't there. However, they noticed a pair of shoes, left by the doorway shoes, that looked strikingly similar to the prints found at the crime scene. After comparison, the police confirmed they were indeed the same pair. On December 28, 2010, Lu Fushan was taken into custody. During interrogation, Lu Fushan refused to cooperate. Instead, he posed a strange question to the officers. When someone uses a knife to take a life, is the blame heavier on the knife or on the person holding it? The police were baffled, unsure what he was hinting at. At that moment, they decided to dig deeper into his social connections. From there, investigators uncovered that Lu Fushan and Liang Zikun were actually very close. Phone records showed that before the incident, the two had been in frequent contact. Yet after the crime took place, their communication abruptly ceased. This was highly suspicious, especially since Liang Zikun had initially claimed he didn't even know Lu Fushan. This proved that Liang Zikun had lied, and he was undoubtedly tied to the death of Zhang Shuni. The police immediately summoned him. After multiple rounds of questioning, Liang Zikun finally confessed, admitting both his crime and the full story. At the same time, Lu Fushan also came forward confirming that it was indeed Liang Zikun who had hired him to target Zhang Shuni. So why would Liang Zikun want to hire Lu Fushan to harm his own wife, especially when their life together seemed peaceful? The truth is, the root of all this crime lay in Liang Zikun's dangerous dream of getting rich overnight. Liang Zikun had once worked as a laborer at the Henfeng cigarette factory before moving on to become a driver for a blasting company run by his brother-in-law, earning just over 3,000 yuan a month. But that modest income never satisfied him. He dreamed of wealth, of a life filled with luxury and ease. Yet no matter if he was working in a factory or driving trucks, there was no real path to riches. The dream of a sudden windfall always seemed far out of reach. Then one day, Liang Zikun watched a movie about a husband who plotted against his wife in order to claim insurance money. That film planted a dark seed in his mind, reigniting his long-held dream of fast wealth. After much thought, Liang decided to try this very scheme, starting with his ex-wife. But when he tried persuading his ex-wife to sign an insurance policy, she became furious. She accused him of being reckless. How could he borrow money to buy insurance when they were already dirt poor? To her, it was as if Liang Zikun wanted her gone sooner rather than later. Those words shook him. Realizing she might have seen through his plot, he dropped the plan. Not long after, their marriage ended in divorce. Yet even after the divorce, Liang Zikun did not give up. He quickly set his sights on another target, a young woman working as a masseuse. His proposal, however, was far from ordinary. Instead of offering jewelry, gold, or romantic gestures, he presented her with an insurance policy, treating it like a symbol of commitment. However, the massage worker was already very experienced in life, and her instincts told her that Liang Zikun's proposal was definitely suspicious. Therefore, she firmly refused. Liang's first 2 attempts failed, but he still did not give up his dream of wealth, and decided to upgrade his plan. This time, he set his sights on the beautiful singer Zhang Shuni. Zhang Shuni was born into a well-off family. Her father was the director of the Henfeng branch of a transport company, while her mother was a renowned embroidery artist in Hubei province. Not only that, her mother was also the inheritor of the region's intangible cultural heritage in embroidery and managed her own embroidery company. From a young age, Zhang Shuni had shown talent in singing and dancing, along with striking beauty. Her dream was to become a skilled artist. Therefore, after graduating from high school, she moved alone to Guangzhou, joined a performance troupe, and began her career on stage. At the troupe, Zhang Shuni fell in love with a male singer named Deng Mo. In 2004, they married and had a child. However, this marriage did not last long, and for many reasons, the two divorced. After her first marriage fell apart, Zhang Shuni decided to return to Hanfeng County and became the business department director at her mother's company. Although busy with work, her passion for singing and dancing never faded. She continued to perform regularly on stage. Her sweet voice was well loved, and she became fairly well known in Hanfeng County. After achieving success in her career, Zhang Shuni gradually longed to find happiness in love. Having gone through a failed marriage, she now hoped to find a mature, reliable man who would truly love her. She believed that as long as he was a good man and treated her well, nothing else mattered. Unexpectedly, Zhang Shuni's simple wish to find a decent man to share happiness made her fall into the sights of Liang Zikun. After observing and analyzing, Liang judged that Zhang came from a wealthy family, had a simple nature, little experience in relationships, and lacked caution in dealing with others. Therefore, Liang believed this was the perfect opportunity to carry out his sinister plan. Thus, Liang Zikun began to put his scheme into motion. Starting in May 2009, he approached Zhang Shuni as a devoted fan, pursuing her with relentless enthusiasm. Outwardly, Liang Zikun appeared humble and honest, treating Zhang Shuni with tender care and attention. Within a short period of courting, Liang Zikun had won Zhang Shuni's heart. On July 15, 2009, Liang Zikun purchased a life insurance policy for Zhang Shuni worth up to 240,000 yuan, about $34,500. This act did not raise any suspicion in Zhang Shuni. Instead, it moved her deeply. In her eyes, even though Liang Zikun was not wealthy, he was willing to give everything for her. This heartfelt insurance policy made Zhang Shuni even more certain that Liang Zikun was the reliable man she had been searching for. Just a few months after meeting in October 2009, Zhang Shuni defied her mother's objections and decided to marry Liang Zikun, a man much older and from a very different background. Until her final days, Zhang Shuni likely never realized that what seemed like a sweet marriage was actually a deadly trap with a human life at stake. On countless nights while Zhang Shuni slept soundly, Liang Zikun, lying right next to her, silently plotted her murder. 3 months after their wedding, he initiated the first attempt. He first approached Lu Fushen, hiring him to carry out the act against Zhang Shuni, promising that Lu Fushen would receive 100,000 yuan, around $14,400 upon success. Tempted by money, Lu Fushen agreed to participate in this criminal scheme. To cover up his crimes, Liang Zikun used the excuse of going to Chongqing for medical treatment, requesting a month off. Then Lu Fushen trailed Zhang Shuni, looking for an opportunity to strike. However, that day, Zhang Shuni was always with friends, and despite prolonged surveillance, Lu Fushen could not find the right moment, and the first plan failed. Not long after, Liang Zikun devised a new plan. Exploiting his work at a demolition company, he stole some explosives and detonators, bringing them home and setting up a triggering device. Once ready, Lu Fushen, holding the key to Liang Zikun's house, hid behind the curtains, waiting for Zhang Shuni to return. However, that night, Zhang Shuni worked overtime and didn't get home until after 2 a.m. Monsieur Lu Fushen, impatient from waiting, attempted to trigger the device before she fell asleep. The loud noise woke Zhang Shuni, who, thinking it was a break-in, screamed. Terrified, Lu Fushen fled. Despite 2 failed attempts, Liang Zikun never gave up. He decided to execute the third plan more meticulously. One night, Zhang Shuni was home alone. Around midnight, she heard someone trying to open her door. Suspecting a burglar, she quickly ran to lock the door. As a result, Lu Fushen hadn't even set foot inside the house. After experiencing such strange events, Zhang Shuni should have been more cautious. Yet regrettably, she devoted herself entirely to her singing career, never suspecting her husband's actions. Time passed, and with 3 insurance policies nearing expiration, Liang Zikun could no longer restrain himself. He decided to make one final attempt, determined to succeed this time, instructing Lu Fushen to complete the task before October 26th. On October 25, 2010, following the plan, Liang Zikun went alone to Yanxi for a medical checkup to create an alibi. Before leaving, he handed Zhang Shuni a bank card telling her that someone would come to collect it that evening, that person being Lu Fushen. After 9 p.m., Lu Fushen wore shoes 1 size too small, size 5.5 US, following Liang Zikun's instructions to avoid surveillance cameras, and arrived at Zhang Shuni's front door. Unaware of the lurking danger, Zhang Shuni was sitting alone watching TV and carefully stitching a pair of canvas shoes for her husband. Hearing the doorbell, she stood up to open it and saw Lu Fushen at the door. Without suspicion, she invited him in. After Lu Fushen entered the house, she walked to the tea table to pick up the bank card her husband had left there. Just as she bent down to grab it, Lu Fushen suddenly struck her on the back of the head with a hammer. He then dragged Zhang Shuni inside and applied a deadly chokehold until she lost consciousness. That night, despite it being 10 p.m., Zhang Shuni had been sitting on the living room sofa, carefully stitching shoe insoles for her husband. The poor woman, even in her final moments, had no idea that the person plotting against her was the very husband she loved. On September 23, 2011, Liang Zikun and Lu Fushen were sentenced to death for the murder of Zhang Shuni. However, since Lu Fushen had voluntarily confessed, his execution was postponed for 2 years. The case closed with bitter finality. Do you think this punishment was sufficient to match the crime Liang Zikun committed against Zhang Shuni? Leave a comment and we can discuss it together. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to share it, so more people who enjoy this genre can see it. and also leave a like and subscribe to the channel to follow more thrilling detective stories. For now, we'll see you in the next videos.